Good morning to everybody. Welcome again to second day of the conference. I'm keen to welcome high representatives, ministers, deputy ministers, ambassadors of Western Balkan countries. You know that yesterday we have been looking at innovation, smart specialization, and this kind of strategies, how to tackle the issues of societal challenges through innovation, knowledge, and research in more global European perspective, but also in perspective of this southeastern region of European Union. And today we are focusing even more on this region, even more specifically on Western Balkan. And I think that we can't have a better chairman, moderator, introducer, and navigator through this very interesting topic than is my colleague Christian Danielsson, Director General in DG in Commission, responsible for neighboring country, for neighborhood policy of the European Union. So then I would like to invite Christian to come over here and take over the panel, and I wish you, on behalf of JRC and all Bulgarian organizers, fruitful second day of the conference, and I hope that by the end of this second day we can conclude that this was really an important conference and we can bring nice knowledge, contacts back home and continue working together. Christian, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vladimir. And it's a great pleasure to be here. Western Balkan is very much on the agenda, very much on the horizon of the leaders. And of course, the whole issue of innovation, of smart specialization, of research, of how to build a better basis for economic development in reality is also very much there. I'm honored to be able to be here with you. You are the experts. I can't call myself expert, but I know a bit of the Western Balkan. I probably know a bit also on what the plans are for the future on the broader context. So what I think I've been invited to do is to start up to say a couple of words on the broader picture. And then I'm going to try to moderate the distinguished panel we have here, which are going much more into the specificities of which many of you, I think, are even more interested in. And I hope we are going to have, as Vladimir pointed to, a very interesting hour and a half together. But let me start to just say a couple of words about where we are. And before I do that, I would like to thank those who have arranged this, and not least JRC. We're working very closely with JRC. JRC is instrumental for the whole issue of evidence-based policy formulation, which we try to do from the European institutions, and I think member states as well, and we try to inspire partners to do as well. And therefore, these kind of conferences and these kind of discussions that we have are from that angle very, very important. Now, supporting investment in research, innovation, and human capital is clearly a priority more generally for the EU. But in particular, when I look on it from the angle of Western Balkan, but also the neighborhood, this very much comes into play. It's vital to boost jobs, growth in the EU, among partners, and of course globally. And that's why the timing and theme of the conference couldn't be more appropriate. Supporting smart specialization and innovation in the Western Balkans is the logical extension of our ongoing work in the region. And just last February, you might recall, the Commission made an unequivocal commitment in its communication, its strategy, to the European future of the region, and setting out very clearly what is called for. And that strategy, in a sense, was a kind of great bargain. It had three elements, I would argue. The first one being very clear in saying the window is open. The European perspective of the 6 countries in the Western Balkan is there. The European path for each of them is a reality. And that recommitment from the Commission and also from the EU, I would say, is an essential part of that bargain. The second part of that bargain is setting out very clearly what is called for from the countries in order to move ahead. And the strategy there is focusing on the reforms, making it clear that issues relating to governance, rule of law, is absolutely essential. We talk about state capture. We talk about the fact that corruption is something which is a reality in many, if not all, of the 6, and that international organized crimes need to be tackled, and that the public administration needs to gear up, and that civil society must play its role fully in the way that the policies is formulated, and that freedom of the media is an essential part of it. So that's the first one, the need to address the issues from the countries concerned, reforms relating to rule of law and governance. The second element that we point out on the tasking for the countries is the economic reform, and I think that is partly what we are discussing today. Seeing to that the climate for business becomes better, seeing to that the structures when it comes to the formulation of policy becomes better, evidence-based policy formulation, seeing to that the specialization and smart specialization comes into play fully, and seeing to that the skills are being addressed, or rather the skill shortages are being addressed in such a way that the potential for growth, the potential for economic development, the potential for addressing issues relating to unemployment or to other social issues, that potential is really being used to its utmost. And if we look on figures for the 6 countries today, for instance, on the issue of growth, there is a huge potential of improvement if these issues are addressed. And of course, what we discussed today is important in that context. The third element that we bring up in the strategy on the tasking is the whole issue of reconciliation, to address the legacy of the past, to look after where are the missing people, to take up the issues about border disputes and other disputes between the countries. And in that context, and more broadly, to go into a forceful regional cooperation. That is very much what the regional economic area is about. So these are the 3 sort of taskings that are there. First, our window open, secondly, the tasking, and the third element is the support, the strong support from the EU in helping the countries to move forward. And there we have the 6 flagship initiatives which have been identified. Goes from socio-economic development, connectivity, the issue of migration and security, the issue of digital, the issue of reconciliation, so important. And then I always forget the last one, which that's always happening to me. I'm sorry for it, but there we are. Which is, it comes back later, then we come down the road. But these 6 flagship initiatives, they are then put down in very concrete terms in 57 concrete measures, which we will see to are being put into place in order to support. And we have also made it clear that this will also get the financial assistance necessary. And the financial assistance necessary is already there with the substantive funds that we are providing for supporting the countries to move forward. But for those of you who have followed the latest debates in Brussels, you have seen that there is a new multi-annual financial framework that has been put on the table. And that one also includes a substantive amount of money for the external relations. Priority among those are Western Balkan. And you will also see that the suggestions in that context is also an increase during the period from 2020 and to 2027. So this is the framework for the discussion that is out there. And I would argue that the fact that the Commission came forward with that has led to a much more vivid discussion between the member states. What has also been very important in the last couple of months is the Bulgarian presidency and the way that the Bulgarian presidency has handled this issue and putting it very much on the agenda. And that is I think most clearly on the table in the sense of the Sofia summit, which is coming into play now in a couple of days. It's a very important summit. It's important because it is the first time since 2003, I think it is, that we have a leadership meeting between the EU 28 and the 6 Western Balkan countries that will be able to then project their common understanding and the common wish to move forward in the European path between all the parties that are taking part of it. It's not an enlargement summit, and it's very important to underline that. It is a summit on the Western Balkan, and it will be very much focused on connectivity in the broad sense. Connectivity in the sense of physical investments, in energy, transport, digital. Connectivity in terms of people to people, how to build more stronger relations between youth, how to see to that all those relations are coming forward. And connectivity also in terms of addressing issues relating to the relations between the six, and deepening the regional cooperation as such. So all of that will be there and will be an important element to confirm the commitment at the political level to move ahead. And there is likely to be also an agenda for doing it with very concrete measures that the leaders will commit to, and thereby driving this forward. So that's a bit how the agenda looks. And now what is going to be essential, and then we have internal work within the EU, where we will have conclusions in June on this, I hope, the strategy that we put on the table in February, but also on the normal, we take the temperature every year normally on the situation in the Western Balkan countries, and we did that in what is called the package that came forward in mid of April, and the member states will draw conclusions about that as well. Then what's then going to be essential is the commitment from the leaders and the countries to take this opportunity and move it forward. And the beauty is that when we look ahead politically, there are presidencies in the EU with a particular interest in the Western Balkan coming. Bulgaria has done a great job, as I'd said. It's going to be followed by Austria, who clearly has made Western Balkan as one of its absolute priorities. It is followed also after that by Romania, Finland, Croatia. So there will be a sequence of presidencies which will have focus on the Western Balkan. So there is this opportunity now for the countries and the leaders to be bold, be determined, take on the various elements that needs to be addressed, and move the whole issue forward, and hopefully then seeing progress in such a way that we will see concrete progress on the issue of the European path. And let me be clear on one thing. The framework for the European path of the countries, the accession process, that one is adamantly clear and has not changed. It's based on own merits. It is the efforts that the individual countries are doing that is going to determine the pace. And for the time being, it's clear that there are two front runners, Montenegro and Serbia. But we have seen previously in these kind of exercises that with determination, countries who are behind can very well be able to catch up and move ahead. And that's the whole process. The process is built on that one, and that's how it will work. Now, that is the broader picture. I think what we are going to discuss today is in a sense, the real issues. Namely, to see to that this actually leads to an environment on the ground in the countries that is positive towards investments, that is seeing to that the best possible climate for business, that is seeing to that the policy is being developed in such a way that it is evidence-based and thereby moving in a direction which is really going to support such a development as I outlined. And I'm looking very much forward to the discussion we will have. I'm sure that there are going to be lots of very interesting points that comes up in it. And I can assure you that in the way that we are working, we are taking this very, very seriously. So when we are looking into how we can use the substantive investments that we have in order to support the countries in their efforts, we're talking about, it's staggering. It's over 1 billion in grants every year. Over 1 billion in grants every year. And that goes to the 6 countries concerned. Now, that is something that we need to see to that is really used efficiently. And in that context, discussions today and yesterday will be important. They will feed into our reflection, and we will see and use it to the extent that we can in order to be helpful for that context. So, without further remarks, I would like to thank you for having listened to me and take over and go over into the role of being the moderator which is an interesting thing, which I'm not very much used to, but I'm going to try to do it the best I can. And as I said, I'm not an expert on the issue as such. But what I would like to do is to invite the panelists to come over here and sit in one of these. There's no name page for it, so you can choose whichever you want. And we got today altogether 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 panelists. We have Genka Jovjova, who is Director of EU Affairs, Bulgarian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Genka, please, why don't you move forward and take a seat? We have Ciprianion Preda, who is the Secretary of State in charge of research and innovation for Romania. Please. We have Viktor Nedovic, Vice Minister, Ministry of Education and Science from Serbia. Please. We have Besa Shahini, Vice Minister of Education and Sports and Youth from Albania. We have Sanja Damjanovic, Minister of Science of Montenegro. We have Jana Safhauser, First Counselor from the Embassy of Bosnia-Herzegovina, Bulgaria. We have Marjan Georgiev, Ambassador from the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia here in Bulgaria. And we have Aber Getci, who is the Vice Minister of Education, Science and Technology of Kosovo. And before I give you the floor, I think there are a couple of issues which I think would be interesting for you to have in mind in your interventions, and I think would stimulate also the debate we have here today. The first one is, how do you see the role of smart specialization in the way that you are implementing your policies? And linked to that one, to what extent are you looking into EU policies on innovation when it comes to helping you to become even better in that area and develop new opportunities? How do you promote the thematic transnational cooperation? I mentioned the regional cooperation, and from my point of view, the regional economic area is very much on my radar screen. How can that one be underpinned, but even beyond? By smart specialization platforms like the one that JRC has put into place. And of course, what is the role of digital technologies? I think we have the Deputy Head of Cabinet of Commissioner Gabriel here today, I think, and what the digital agenda is one element that is going to, I think, figure quite prominently at the Sofia Summit, which is coming, so that is an important element. And in that context then, what is the strategies which are most relevant for you when it comes to moving the digital innovation forward? And in that context, hubs. How will you see hubs coming? Just to stimulate the debate. And I would like to take it in the order that, in the following order. I would like to start with Besa Shahini, perhaps, if you would like to start to begin with the introduction, and then we take it one after another, and then we open up for the floor to come in and ask questions. Please go ahead, Besa.
Can you hear? Okay, it works well. Thank you very much for this introduction. Albania is, I think, compared to maybe Montenegro and Serbia, is falling behind in adopting the smart specialization strategy. Only this year have we become officially sort of part of the platform for smart specialization. What has happened is that the working group has been now finalized. So there's a group that is looking into what the documents that need to be taken into account are and which areas should the sort of exercise focus on. The regions were, as they are divided in Albania, Albania is divided into sort of 4 economic development regions. And for this exercise, my colleagues back in Tirana have decided to focus on Region 2, which involves the capital, this sort of bustling city that is changing and has a lot of investment in the last few years, and has also the adjacent Durrës, which is a very tourist area that has a beach and is along the Adriatic coast. So this would be an area that they are now going through this exercise to learn how to do smart specialization in a place where you have a lot of investment, compared to the rest of the country. You have a concentration of universities, and you have this tourist zone, which is fitting really well with the priorities that the government has in terms of economic development in general. Albania has tourist potential, so this is one area that the whole government is focusing on when they're thinking about the future economic development. There was a training, I think, done in Ljubljana a few weeks ago. My colleagues were taking part. Now what we need to do is, I think, coordinate some of this work that was done so far with what other ministries are doing in terms of defining the priorities for economic development and job creation in the country. The Prime Minister's office, together with the Ministry of Economy and Finance, have now gone through this other exercise together with the European Commission and the World Bank and the GIZ and all of our development partners, where we know sort of where the jobs are today and where the potential for job creation is. So as we move forward into the smart specialization strategy, I think using some of this data that is already there would be very useful. And I'm actually looking forward to hearing more from my colleagues from Serbia and Montenegro, who are further ahead in this process, to see how the steps, which were the steps taken to come to a better document, a better strategy that has helped with the smart specialization, and including innovation in growth in general and job growth in particular. Now, what do we know? As the economy was growing in the last 10 years after the financial crisis, initially there were no jobs created in Albania until maybe about 2013, when the economic growth then was picked up by job creation. So now this is happening steadily. There is steady economic growth and there's steady job creation, but this is still small. And it's also important to see where the jobs are that are being created and what value do they bring. There is about 30 to 40,000 people that join the job market every year in Albania, and I think the economy creates enough jobs to sort of sustain this number, roughly, yeah? So don't quote me on this, but there is then still this big gap of all the people who are not employed that cannot be filled with what we are currently doing. So the need for innovation to be included in economic growth, which would lead to economic development, is extremely important, because we need to make a bigger jump at some point to create more jobs, to actually accommodate all of the people that are in the job market but are not employed. The areas which are still creating jobs, and I think there will be some focus on, is tourism, but this is seasonal, and it's, I think, very volatile, because once you have a financial crisis, you don't get so many tourists, so this is not something that can be the main specialization. I think the government is thinking a lot about also agro-processing, but not just sort of subsistence agriculture, but processing agriculture for exports, because exports, as we know, produce most value, and then produce also this economic development around the manufacturing that helps create jobs in the services around production, around manufacturing. And there is a new sort of exciting area that is developing, which is in the ICT. But mainly, this is not ICT products for export, but it's mainly ICT services and administration services which are exported. Again, service exportation is very important, but it's volatile. So to think about where Albania should go in the next 10 years, there need to be this mix of focusing on developing areas that can produce export goods, goods that can be exported, but also then developing some of these other areas that have potential already today, which is ICT, ICT services. I think as the EU is looking at the region as well, and considering where the specialization is today, I think we need to think to go beyond this. So we can't focus, because as I was reading about smart specialization in the last sort of few months and trying to learn more about this, it seems to me that one of the areas that this focuses on is where countries have some competitiveness, the focus should be also there. So put in more resources, more innovation, thinking in those areas. But I think we need to go one step beyond, because there are countries, if you look at the region, there are countries that are already specializing in areas which can produce more value, like manufacturing and exporting goods, and there's countries that have competitiveness sort of benefits from areas that are more volatile, like tourism. So we need to think, how can we also bring some of this thinking to strengthen for countries that are specializing in areas that are volatile, to strengthen the other aspects. Now, as a ministry, and if you bear with me, I'll take 2 minutes just to talk a little bit about what we're doing in education. If this is still
I don't know how is the timelines here, because we need to see that we are not overburdening it from that angle. Maybe very shortly then on education.
Maybe I can skip on education and we can come back to that later. Yes. I just think that as we think about how to move forward and where to specialize and where to innovate and where the research funding should go, we shouldn't forget basic skills, because we have this system of pre-university education in the region that is still failing to produce the kinds of basic skills that are competitive with the rest of the EU, right? And the PISA test is showing that countries in the region, Albania included, is improving in providing basic skills of literacy, mathematics, the logic thinking, and science, but we're still not improving with the same heaps that are important, I think, to be competitive with the rest of Europe. And the reforms that we are thinking about now are going in that direction. I think we will be doing this for another couple of years until we get this right. So the curricula has been changed. Now we have this competence-based curricula in the pre-university education that aims to not only build sort of literacy, better literacy, strengthen sort of logic, mathematics, and science, but also have a very strong focus on languages and on ICT, but also training teachers in faculties of education and in service teachers. So we cover this properly, and in the next 5 to 10 years, we see better results in these basic skills. Last point, I think we need now a lot more sort of technical assistance to help us with the smart specialization strategy, because we have gathered better data, we know where we stand, now we just need to put it in a strategy that then we can use and put in place. So yeah, I'm looking forward both to the meeting here to learn from my colleagues from the rest of the region, but also maybe we can see how we can have a schedule in place where we can get more of this input also in Tirana. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we're going to go in the alphabetic order, because that's, I think, is always the safest way to go about it. So the next one will be the first councillor from Bosnia-Herzegovina. Jasna Safhauser, please, you have the floor.
Maybe it's working. I'm here today in front.
Здравейте, аз съм тук от името на Външното министерство и понеже не съм дипломат от кариерата, ще се постарая. Ще опитам да разкажа какво правим в това отношение. Аз съм наистина много благодарна за това, че имам възможност името на Министерството на гражданството на Босна и Херцеговина да мога да участвам. Благодаря на домакините за организирането на проявата и на колегите ми от региона, които изявиха желанието си да споделят богатия си опит в областта на иновациите, научните изследвания и развитие. Според нас това е много добра платформа за обогатяване, за обмен на опит от държавите членки, защото е особено важно да се обсъждат възможностите за сътрудничество между страните и за това как може да подкрепяме развитието, иновацията и мобилността. Ще кажа няколко думи за Босна и Херцеговина и за това какво се прави по отношение на европейското и членство. Членство в Европейския съюз сред водещите приоритети на Босна и Херцеговина от юни 2016 бе подписано споразумението за стабилизация и асоцииране в Люксембург. В двете камари на нашето Народно събрание се прие декларация за ангажиментите на правителството и всички институции в държавата за осъществяване на реформите, необходими за процеса на присъединяването. Босна и Херцеговина също така представи отговорите си на въпросника на Европейската комисия в началото на тази година. В областта на науката и иновациите Босна и Херцеговина е силно децентрализирана, така че на ниво федерация това не може да се види, тъй като отделните 10 кантона имат правомощия в това, а на централно ниво се осъществява координацията и определението на стратегиите в национален план. Координационните процеси са много важни, за това и е важно да следим какво се прави в Европейския съюз по отношение на стратегиите като Хоризонт 2020. Основните цели в стратегията за развитие на науката и иновациите в Босна и Херцеговина, която обхваща периода от 2017 до 2021, е създаването и укрепването на връзки с други институции от мрежата в Европейския съюз, установяване на връзки между учените, подобряване на квалификацията на сега работещите изследователи и въвеждане на международните изследователски стандарти. Ние подкрепяме политиките по отношение на премахване на бариерите за свободно движение в Европа, подкрепа на сътрудничеството между младежите, студентите и академичните среди изобщо. Даваме си сметка за затрудненията, с които трябва да се справя научно-изследователският сектор, недостатъчна инфраструктура, изтичане на мозъци, недостатъчно оползотворяване на възможностите по Хоризонт 2020. Но сме убедени, че сътрудничество може да помогне да преодолем тези спънки и да се включим в регионални институции, като Регионалният институт за иновации и технологии в Югоизточна Европа. По отношение на Европа 2020, ние смятаме, че бъдещето и компетентността идва от обединяването на различни модели в областта на стопанската дейност, производството и
We are working also on strengthening cooperation between science, economy, and public administration government in order to build an innovation system and to improve the conditions and access to funding for research and innovation. To develop a sustainable economy, a strategic link is needed between education, employment, and innovation in order to increase the level of creativity by increasing the level of education, which as the end result will create new jobs. Our goal is to increase the participation of Bosnia and Herzegovina's researchers and scientific and economic institutions in the European Science Research Network and European projects.
It's a bit, we need to... good.
Okay. I'm almost finished. And just to say that we believe that our researchers can contribute to European research area and that through their established cooperation, they also strengthen their own capacities. And we sincerely wish for stronger cooperation in this field, and we want you to recognize honest partner among us towards achieving common goals and projects that will give additional value to the European scientific research and innovation space. Thank you, and sorry
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. No, that's fine. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to give the floor to you, Genka. Please, your floor.
Good morning, everyone. I'm not going to speak so focused on, not going to be so focused on the topic, on the questions that Mr. Danielson has asked. I had two temptations this morning coming to this conference. The first one was whether to speak in Bulgarian. After all, we're in Sofia. Bulgarian is an official language of the EU. And with our immediate neighbors from the Western Balkans, we can understand each other easily in our native languages if we want to, if there is political will. Anyway, I will follow the trend of the panel and speak in English. My second temptation was to bring you back in time to the moment when we decided to focus on the Western Balkans, why Bulgaria decided to do that. A lot of people were against it, and we got a lot of suggestions to go back, to go away from the Balkans. I will shorten this to the maximum because I believe that you need to have the bigger picture in order to understand the significance of the summit and the significance of what we are doing today here with this discussion. Last summer and during the autumn, we started a very deep analysis of the situation in the Balkans and the relations of the region with the EU. And we found out that the prevailing paradigm was the security one. But securitization in the Western Balkans usually goes to decisions to isolate the region from the EU because the region is treated as a threat. And this is not a good approach at all. Just remember the migrant flows. No matter whether you build fences, migrants will get into the EU. The second paradigm that we saw existing in the EU relations with the Western Balkans was the development one. This is through IPA, through other approaches, including the approaches of other international organizations, trying to tackle the deep root reasons for the instability and insecurity in the region. Yes, this paradigm is extremely valid, but it's a very slow one. You can't have fast results. Then we saw the paradigm which was established with the Berlin process, the partnership paradigm. It, again, lacked the political substance behind it, the enlargement substance. And we decided to come up with another approach, enlargement plus engagement approach. And we are so happy to see it in the new strategy of the Commission. Because this is what we believe the Western Balkans need. They need to keep the enlargement perspective, the European perspective, because their place is in Europe, and at the same time receive help, receive assistance for the so needed reforms. And because of our choice, Bulgarian presidency was named as a Balkan presidency. I don't believe so, because we have three other priorities, and they're directly linked to the common market and to the development of the integration within the European Union, plus exporting stability to the immediate neighborhood. The Western Balkans, of course, is on the table now with the Sofia summit, and we believe that we can send a very clear and strong message, as Mr. Danielson already explained. And also, we believe that through all these discussions, we are preparing the countries, we are helping the countries prepare better for their future inclusion in the common market. What about the new technologies? We discussed, during the presidency, we discussed several aspects of the new technologies together with Western Balkan countries here in Sofia. Cybersecurity, digitalization in the tourism industry was a very interesting discussion. And of course, the establishment of a pan-Balkan network on startup companies in the digital sphere. Very interesting ideas, very interesting initiatives that I believe will bring results. What we found out from these discussions is that everyone understands clearly Digitalization and new technologies give us opportunities, but they are also a threat. They can bring more disparities and inequalities to our markets. They can make us less competitive to other countries in the EU, and at the same time, they can increase inequalities in our social systems. So we need to get prepared. We need to exactly exchange views, exchange experience, and think together what the answers should be in order to be prepared for the future. That's why I believe that this discussion is so important today. And I believe that we will continue with specific decisions under the umbrella of the Sofia Summit. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you very much. Now we're moving in the alphabetic order to the Vice Minister of Education and Science and Technology of Kosovo. Abigeci, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for this great opportunity. I would like to mention some points that we are working toward the smart specialization strategy. The Republic of Kosovo is committed towards the European integration process as well as the regional cooperation. We have been actively involved and will continue to take part in the regional initiatives and mechanisms. First of all, I would like to mention some developments that I consider that they are very relevant for the smart specialization strategy. First of all, we have established the new ministry, which is the Ministry of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, which resulted with increased budget for innovation and entrepreneurship. We also have established the National Council on Innovation and Entrepreneurship last November, a decision-making body with broader participation for the government, academia, and the private sector. At the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, we have the Scientific Council. On 23rd April, we have sent a letter of interest to the European Union support, and we asked them for the support for our commitment of the government of Kosovo to develop a smart specialization strategy in an inclusive manner. Overall, we consider that the process will be entrusted to the National Council on Innovation and Entrepreneurship, which includes key ministries, assembly, academia, chamber of commerce, and civil society. In addition, given the experience in preparation of economic reform programs, coordination at technical level will be carried out by the Strategic Planning Office in the Office of Prime Minister, with responsibility to form also a specific working group on smart specialization under the National Council mentioned above. In this regard, we have started to draft the strategy on innovation and entrepreneurship coordinated by the Ministry of Innovation. We have prepared the initial draft and work in underway to finalize this document. This puts us in a good position to make the necessary linkages and set up the framework of the smart specialization. All this will contribute to develop a smart specialization strategy and will take us into an account all necessary regional elements, and at the same time will adapt to the country-specific elements. We also, in the conclusion, I would like to mention shortly some steps that we are planning to be taken before the Sofia Summit, scheduled for the 17th of May. We are planning to formalization a national team for smart specialization strategy by government decision. Also, we are working to be part of the smart specialization platform. These are some points that I wanted to mention at the beginning, so thank you.
Thank you. And now, Ambassador Georgiev, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to greet everyone in the hall.
What's happening? There we are. Yes. Please, go on.
Yeah.
I think you have to have the micro closer to your...
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I will present the document prepared
closer.
In the cabinet of the Minister of Economy of the Republic of Macedonia, Mr. Krešni Bekteshi, which will explain in some points the situation in the Republic of Macedonia regarding the topic of this significant conference. Economy based on knowledge, innovation, and internalization has been high on the agenda of the government of the Republic of Macedonia since 1995, when we began our negotiation process, which lasted 23 years of our accession to EU. But now at the moment we reinforce and improve the policy regarding the topic. Macedonia faces the same challenges as the other countries, transition countries in the region, related to technology transfer, brain drain, and competitiveness. Because of that, the government of the Republic of Macedonia prepares strategic documents that create the framework of support the growth and are linked to smart specialization. The smart specialization in the Republic of Macedonia is understood as a process that will match industrial policy, innovation policy, and policy for regional development, utilizing the potentials of the Republic of Macedonia and the whole region of the Western Balkans. We started activities to launch the process. The government has adopted the information, and the letter of intention was submitted to GRS. The working group has been established, comprising representatives from different ministries and also other relevant institutions such as Statistical State Office and few leading universities related to this topic. We look forward to closer collaboration with GRS in learning and leading the process. Also, it is very important to have continuous collaboration and opportunity to learn from the EU members and also to cooperate with the countries from the Western Balkans in exchange of good practices and also launching joint investments for collaboration. The scientific approach is essential for the future process of building the smart specialization strategy of the Republic of Macedonia. It's very important to mention that the multi-criteria decision-making scientific process for defining indicators has been used in several, actually 5 PhD theses, with the main aim to define indicators which will help the policy and decision makers in the process of defining the priorities for future economic growth and improvement of the competitiveness of the Macedonian industry, economy, and society at all. In the moment, we are in the process of revision of our industrial policy in order to create improvement and favorable business environment for investments and growth. There are many new measures and initiatives for the industry that will support new investments in technology transfer, product diversification, and new employments, investing in research and development, and increase internalization. Innovation policy is one of the key pillars of the economy policy. In recent years, a lot of activities are undertaken. For example, in 2012 was enacted a strategy for innovation for the period 2012-2020. Also, we enacted the law of innovation activity, and also we established the Fund for Innovation and Technology Development. The fund was supported with big financial support through World Bank, and many new initiatives and instruments were launched. The instruments of the fund are focusing on supporting the startups and spin-off companies, commercialization of the innovation, support technology, extension, and accelerators. At the end, science, research and development, knowledge and education is seen as one of the key pillars for creating a good base with high-skilled labor force that is creative and innovative. There is no strategy for education and undergo process reforms and higher education. Innovation and entrepreneurial learning are introduced as a subject in the curricula at the primary and secondary education. Better education system should encourage the capabilities for innovation and willingness of the people to stay and develop their entrepreneurial ideas competing globally. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. And now give the floor to Minister Damjanovic, please.
Yeah. So my microphone
I think it works. It works.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, it's a great pleasure to participate in this event. I would like to thank to the GRC for inviting me. I also like to thank you for chairing this session. So now to your first question. Let me say that small countries like Montenegro have common challenges, and our problems have different solutions compared to those to larger countries, larger with 1+ or even 10+ million inhabitants. Very often we are using relative numbers, but we forget that the most important are absolute numbers. So what is our problem? Our problem is that our absolute numbers are small, so our funding is low in absolute terms. Our critical mass is small. However, the number of research fields and options are diversified like in any other countries. So the question arises how we can spend our little funds in a smart way, or how can we focus on much less to achieve more. Here, the smart specialization is extremely important for us to cope with our common challenges. And even if I can say the smart specialization is even the most important for such small countries. So the well-founded and methodologically developed smart specialization strategy is important guidance for us, how to lower the risks and at the same time how to increase the opportunities for good investment of our funds. And I need to say that Montenegro entered the GRC S3 platform last year in August, and we are now about to start the EDP process. However, I would like to mention that our region is not starting from zero. We all know that our region very much suffered from the recent history, which very much slowed down scientific activities, which enhance dramatically brain drain, which is one of our larger problems. But at the same time, we should not forget that the same region in the past had incredible period of development, of technology development, and had a significant scientific contribution on European scale. Here I would like to mention that only recently, a few weeks ago, for example, the Institute Vinci in Serbia celebrated its 17th anniversary, meaning this institute is even 6 years older than CERN. And the first research nuclear reactor was started to operate in Vinci only 2 years later than the first research nuclear reactor was started to operate in Germany. So tradition is there, the ground is there. But how to go back to such transition? So we are here all working hard to find our innovative niches. Why you are speeding much faster than us? So in order to finally decrease the gap towards the rest of Europe, we really need a catalyst. So to spin off the modern technology, to spin off innovative niches, to find the most effective way to cooperate and to be complementary to each other, and to finally come back to be competitive to Europe, we really need a regional center of excellence. We need a large-scale research infrastructure based on the most modern technologies. So we know all that very much because if you really scan the Europe, you see that all Europe have such centers. But the big part of Europe, from Slovenia to Greece, is gray zone in that. So a little bit more than 1 year, we initiated possibility to establish a Southeast European International Institute for Sustainable Technologies, which will make very strong socioeconomic impact. I would like to say that one of mission of this project is Science for Peace, and indeed the project was first time proposed by Professor Herbie Schopper, a former Director General of CERN, and the mission of our project will be the same like one of Sesame project, which was established in Jordan and which started to operate it last year, or it would be the same mission of CERN. So we really work hard over 1 year, and over a very short time we now really created a big momentum of this project. over such short time, we achieve incredible success, both on political and scientific fronts. On political fronts, we have 10 candidates for the members of these projects, countries from Slovenia, all the way down to Greece. And I would like to point to you that we had a ministerial meeting at CERN last year in October, and we signed a declaration of intent, and even 8 parties signed this declaration. Croatia had status ad referendum, while Greece took status of observer. So on scientific fronts, we also achieved incredible success. We had a group of international experts who work for concept study for this project. They created 100 pages a document, which was for the first time shown in public at the forum, which we organized in Trieste in January this year. So what is the project we are talking about? I just now want to mention that now I'm talking not only as the Minister of Science of Montenegro, but I'm talking also as a chairperson of the steering committee, intergovernmental steering committee, which we formed. So originally, we proposed 2 options which were complementary to each other, both based on the most modern technology. We got encouraged for EU, but we needed to choose an option. And our vote was hadron cancer therapy and biomedical research with protons and heavier ions. So I want to point to you that in the world, there are only 12 such machines and only 4 in Europe. However, our project is going to be unique in the world. Why? Because 50% of time we are going to dedicate it to research. And we all know what means cancer research today. Now, you can ask us, where is your critical mass? What is your capacity building? And I want to point to you that over 1 year, we made a normal network with all users, also from the Western Europe. And there is a large community of the users of Western Europe, so-called BioLea community, which we would like to work with us. So we would have an incredible connection. We will only not collaborate between each other, but we will really make a ground which is not only important for us in the region, but which also will give you hands, because knowing what this component of research means. So I will finish fast this point, but I think I would really like to bring to the end. So, I mean, being encouraged by EU and being aware that all this project is in line with your Western Balkan new strategy, with all practically flagships in it, and even with flagships 6, which you point out, in being very much encouraged with the external community, and CERN is going to offer us help, like they did for EMBO and ESO. We are already discussing the next phase, meaning preparatory phase to establish technical design report, business plan, and we really rely on the help both from European Commissioner for Research Innovation and also from the DG NIR, because I want to say, I will only take 2 more minutes to this point. So we are going, if CERN help us, we are going to boost further technology for this machine, which will be able to cope practically with all types of the cancer, which means we are going to build machine, which means we will wake up everything which was working in the past in these countries. And we are already making network of oncologists and scientists, but we also are making network of the business. We have already Cozy Lab from Slovenia in, and I think this will really help. If we start with this project, it will really help to flourish technology. It's in line with smart specialization strategy. And the last, my point, this project is too big to carry with one country. Because even if the funds come from your side, the operational costs. So we need to go together. And thank you.
Thank you very much. And now to State Secretary Cyprian John Preda. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for the invitation to be here. And I want to apologize for the quality of my voice. It seems that the rain yesterday got me a cold. I had a presentation, so I'm just going to try to sort out some information out of it. First of all, I want to say that I do share the opinions of the previous speakers, and especially of my right-hand colleague here, regarding the digital agenda, as you probably know, both countries, Bulgaria and Romania, joined the European initiative regarding the AI, the artificial intelligence, the blockchain technology, the innovation radar in Brussels a few weeks ago. You guys actually did it firstly, so we followed. And also Bulgaria, as far as I remember, joined the High Performance Computer Initiative. Romania has the intention to do it, to join the HPC initiative, which is of course a serious bet and a serious challenge. As you probably know, by 2020, we plan to have a pre-exascale computer, which means a lot, a big input in the IT technology. Regarding the smart specialization strategies for Romania, we do see this from 3 perspectives. So R&D and innovation policy, we do have a strategy, national R&D and innovation strategy, which covers the interval 2014-2020. We have an industrial policy, and here we do have a strategy also, the National Strategy for Competitiveness 2014-2020, and the National Strategy, as I said, for Digital Agenda for Romania 2020. And of course, the third perspective is about the regional development policy, and here we do have an R&D strategy. Regarding the first item, the National R&D and Innovation Strategy, which, as I said, covers the period 2014-2020, we have some priority domains which are actually adjust, or I should say, following the European view. So the smart specialization RDI domains in Romania are bioeconomy, ICT, information and computer technology, security and space, energy, environment, climate change, and the fourth one, eco, nanotechnologies and advanced materials. We do have tradition in some of these, we do have good specialists, but here I do want to emphasize what my previous speaker said, Mrs. Damjanovic from Montenegro. So we do have that serious issue with the brain drain. A lot of young researchers, of course, especially in the IT domains, in the IT business, they are going abroad, they are going west, you know, for a better salary. Although, as you know, most of the companies are doing outsourcing over these days, so they can, I mean, they can use people from Bulgaria, from Romania, from Serbia, from Montenegro, from Albania. They can use people, and the researchers or the scientists can live in their countries. I mean, no need for them to move west in order to work in the IT business. They can be in their countries and, you know, get a good salary and do the same business, do the same task. Regarding the specific national interest domains, we do propose health, national identity and assets, future and emerging technologies. And of course, for the fundamental research, we do have the basic sciences, materials and nanosciences, lasers and plasma. You probably know we do have the huge ELI project in Magurele. So as I said, lasers and plasma, nuclear and particle physics and photonics. As a mathematician, I remarked that the first speaker, I guess, said mathematics and sciences. I remember this is a big dispute, mathematics being or not being a science. So as a mathematician, of course, for me it's a science.
Start up that discussion, perhaps?
Regarding how to increase the economic competitiveness through innovation. So we do plan to develop an R&D system, the R&D system capacity and performance, including European level infrastructure. As I said, we do have the 3 big projects, ELI, NP, you know, the laser one in Magurele. We do have the Danubius project and Alfred regarding a nuclear reactor of the 4th generation. We do plan to stimulate research, industry collaboration, and private sector initiative for developing and, how should I say, to broad up R&D results. I must say that this is, from my point of view, one of the weak points in Western Balkans. How to transfer knowledge and technology from research to public, private and public sector. So we do not know yet properly how to monetize the results of our research. I remember that in one of the meetings in Sofia, Commissioner Moedas, Carlos Moedas, said that we all know to make research out of euro, but we are not so good to make euro back out of the research results. So that's one of the main issues, I guess, in Western Balkans, and of course increasing the performances in knowledge transfer from research to public and private sector to industry is going to be, it is a serious bet, and it's going to be very, how should I say, it's going to bring a good input if we're going to succeed to improve this performance. As a challenge, we try to stimulate the development of, as I said, research and industry collaborative RDI projects at the experimental level, or let's say demonstrative level. And of course, one of the serious challenges, the innovative clusters. At the regional level, we try to address special attention to the high-tech driven sectors, automotive, materials, energy, bioindustry, electronics, mechatronic, and so on. And regarding the coordination, so we do have a Ministry of Research and Innovation. So we have a special institution for how should I say, for addressing the research and development and innovation issues. This started back in 2017, actually at the end of 2016. We started to have a separate Ministry of Research and Innovation, which split it from the Ministry of Education. Before, we had both ministries under the same umbrella, so we have National Education and Research. As you know, usually the habit is to have them research and technology, or research and economy, let's say like in Japan, or with the university education. So we choose to have a separate Ministry of Research and Innovation in order to increase Romanian capacities and to stimulate research. So the coordination, the national health authority about research is this Ministry of Research and Innovation. I'll try to cut it off to shorten up. And we do have a national RDI plan, 2015-2020. The national budget is 1.2 billion euros. We have an operational program for competitiveness 2015-2020. Which is operated out of structural funds and of course national budget, and we have a sectorial R&D plan which is operated out of a national budget. Other ministries which are involved, economy, agriculture, information society, and defense. And for the sectorial operational programs, the RDI section, of course, as I said, we do use structural funds and the national budget.
I think we have to.
Yes, one more minute and I'll be done. As I said, I did have a presentation, so I'm not going to be able to cover all of it. I just wanted to say a few words about the national strategy on digital agenda for Romania 2020. The objectives. So we have 4 areas of action: e-government, interoperability, cybersecurity, which is of course the hot topic all over the world over these days, cloud computing, and social media. The second spectrum, we have the ICT in education, culture, and health. The third one, ICT in e-commerce research, development and innovation in ICT. And the fourth one, the broadband and digital infrastructure services. And for objectives, we set it up at least 35% of people use e-government systems. So this is one of the targets. At least 60% of the citizens use the internet regularly, and at least 30% out of the citizens, Romanian citizens, make purchases online. Coverage with broadband communication networks over 30 Mbps of minimum 80% reached already. As you know, probably we have a very large broadband in Romania. Thank you so much, and good luck with the event.
Thank you. No, thank you for giving us this broad picture. And now finally we have the Vice Minister of Education and Science from Serbia, Viktor Nedovic. Please, you have the floor. A micro for
thank you. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for the invitation for this very important panel discussion related to the smart specialization. But before I start, sorry, Mr. Danielson, I have to react before I start and to ask you to take care about incorrect presentation of some of the economies. One of the economy at the first stage that is presented on the incorrect way, and that is properly designated here on the slide with asterisks. Please just take care in the future discussion about it. It is a sensitive issue in the region. Thank you. Thank you also to Bulgarian presidency, to JRC as well for this high-level event that is organized in Sofia along the Bulgarian presidency of the Council. This issue of smart specialization is become more and more top priority issue in Serbia, but I think according to the interventions before mine, I see that it is the case in all other economies in the region. Yesterday we followed very nice presentation of our friend and colleague from JRC, Alex Kleibnik, and one of the question that is on the issue that is mentioned in his presentation was actually what is the real reason that the economies enter in this process of smart specialization, and he listed, if I'm not wrong, 4 major reasons. One of these is ex-ante conditionality, but it is related to the member states. Another one is competence of the economies, competition in some of the competence fields, in some of the niches of the economies. The third one was a kind of copy or mimic of something that is already developed in some other well-developed countries. And the fourth one was actually the learning process. From the perspective of Serbia, as it is not ex-ante conditionality for us at this very moment, as the candidate country, if I may identify some of the major reasons for us to enter in the process, is for sure the second one that is related to the competence of some of the fields in which we should invest more. Plus, the fourth one that is a kind of learning process on the already proven methodology, well developed in the member states by the support of the Commission services, by the support of DG JRC. We, like it was a Serbian province, Vojvodina, in 2013 as the first European region that entered in this process. Serbia was the first candidate country that entered in the process in 2000 as a whole, as a large, in 2013. 2016, we created a kind of, in the first stage, we created a kind of the governmental structure related to the smart specialization process, and we started in close cooperation and communication with, at the first stage, JRC to develop the roadmap, the action plan, and the strategy itself became, at a certain moment, the part of the action plan of our government. That means we have, at this very moment, this inter-ministerial governance body, working group, related to the smart specialization. We have one analytical part, one operational part that is trying to make the process more efficient. And just from recently, we created so-called EDP team for this most sensitive part of the strategy development we are entering right now. That means we take it as a very serious activity on the high political level, and this meeting today will be another push for us to try to be even more efficient in the coming period with this EDP process which we are facing now. At the same time, we are in the process of reform, just something else before I continue in this way. We don't see the strategy itself as a new research strategy. It's a new innovation strategy. We already have strategy, research for innovation in place at this very moment. We see smart specialization strategy as a kind of development strategy, development of our economy, development of society as large, but based on our capacities in research and innovation, linked, connected with that. That means that we, as representatives, as a leading entity in this intergovernmental body, as representatives of Ministry of Education, Science and Technological Development, very close cooperative with the Ministry of Economy, with our Public Policy Secretariat, with the Ministry of Finance, some other ministries of labor and so on, plus with the Serbian Academy of Sciences, plus with the Serbian Chamber of Commerce, plus with some entities in the province of Vojvodina. That means that we would like to find out by the end of the process the real thematic priorities by which, with the additional investment, we could, in very short period, do much more and be competitive on the global level, regionally, but also on the European global level. That is one of the starting points when we enter this. We also would like to develop a kind of dialogue between different institutions, stakeholders along this process, because it is not so often case that we have very well developed dialogue among the stakeholders. From the other side, we are in the reform process of our research and innovation system. As the ministry that is responsible for the policy in that two very important issues, we are at the moment working on the new law on research and the new law on innovation. We are just drafted recently, that is still in the internal service consultation research infrastructure roadmap that is in line with S3 rules. That means we are trying to do all necessary things that could make environment to be more effective in the coming years when we adopt the smart specialization strategy. That means also that we will change our financial system in the research sector, that will have one part that will be very competitive one, that will go to the institution that will be created according to the new law, that is Science and Research Foundation, and the fund that will be dedicated to the research foundation should be also the part of support from our side, from the national side, of the implementation of the smart specialization strategy, as we plan also by our innovation fund that already developed several very nice schemes to support at first stage business sector to streamline according to the strategy priorities, future investment on behalf of the fund itself. It is an environment that we are trying to create as a ministry. We are also discussing with the Chamber of Commerce. We are also discussing with the Ministry of Economy to do some synergetic activities related to the future support of smart specialization strategy. But by the end of the day, as we do not have, as a candidate country, access to ESIF, to structural funds, to investment funds of European Union, we actually expect also from the European Union, as it is already stated in your introduction words today, a kind of push from the financial side for the future smart specialization. And why not, with this additional boost of 500 or more million of euros that will be actually implemented through multi-country IPA or through some other schemes. We expect we will do a lot. We will put a lot of efforts for our side on the national level, but we expect also from European Commission to support us in that respect, in that view. Concerning the regional platforms, in line with already developed bilateral agreements with among many of the economies in the region. We have also nice cooperation through some already developed another European schemes like COSTIS, like Eureka, is like cross-border cooperation, like transnational Interreg cooperation. Why not through Horizon 2020? We have in Horizon 2020 one, if I may say on that way, absolute leader in the Eastern Europe, which director is, I suppose, present here somewhere in the public. It is Biosense Institute that could be used as a model for the others. We would like very much to share their experience. They already tried to make the regional network of the institutions. When I say the leader, that means that the Biosense Institute already won 17 plus soon some additional project in Horizon 2020 with the budget that is over 20 million of euros only for that institutions, only for the projects of that institution per capita. That I learned just recently, this institution is even in front of Fraunhofer Institute in Germany when we analyze it per capita. This is excellent example how it could be done in the region, how the a regional center of excellence could be created, how the hub, innovation hub, accelerator for the new ideas, for the innovation, to create ecosystem environment for the enable environment for the innovation could be created in our countries, that we are ready to share that experience. The people from the Institute already are working on that way. The government of Republic of Serbia is supporting this. In addition to that, we have a Berlin process. We have some activities related to the Berlin process itself. We have a regional economic area multi-annual action plan that is implemented by Regional Cooperation Council. But we also have a great initiative that came, a regional one, that came from Leopoldina Academy of Germany, plus French Academy, plus some other academies, Italian one, Austrian one, and Great Britain one. And this initiative is related to the creation of regional centers of excellence through the work of the future foundation, regional foundation for research and innovation. And the idea is to support the best talents, and if we are talking about the brain drain, we see this initiative as a very important one for the region, to keep the best talents in the region. And the whole idea is actually to create the laboratories, the new institutions surrounding the best talents in the region through ERC-like grants. That means that it is, I hope, the close future. We could account soon on that in this kind of development. And just to finalize with this innovation technologies issues, we see this digital technologies issue. We see digital technologies as one of very important issue, not only related to the cross-cutting binding of different fields of specialization, but also with the multiple role in not only Serbia but in the whole region, not only to be infrastructure support to the specializations, to the disciplines, but also to provide data flow between different disciplines, to provide also easy user access, to provide higher efficiency, and so on. That means we in Serbia count a lot on digitalization. We even in this reform process that is not tackling only research and innovation, but also education part at all levels. We are doing a lot in that sense. We introduced recently information technologies in the basic school as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We come to the end now of the panelists. Who is the organizer who can give me a little piece of information? Do we have time for questions? 5 minutes for questions, okay. In that case, I don't see very much here. Do we have questions from the audience to the panel or to what has been said? Now's the time. So please, if you could raise your hands and... Now we have one, please. Do we have a micro? Do we have somebody with a micro who's running around here? Please. And if you could say, you also could state your name so that we know who you are.
Hello. I would like to ask most of people from the Balkans, they feel that sometimes we are discouraged or, how to say, perceived as not a big force in the science, in international meetings, in international scale, and how they can fight with that. It means that if somebody appears from Serbia or I don't know, Montenegro, and sometimes from Romania, it's not the best case, but all the people see a little bit critical, say, those guys, what they do here, they are not the first-class scientists. I observed that on many congresses, scientist congress, etc. It means that it's a little bit, how to say, maybe not exact word, but discrimination.
Okay,
that
I think
we
the question is here. Who? Yes, can you give your name? And
Radoslav Markov.
From
Bulgaria.
Yeah, okay. Do we have any other question? We can take perhaps two or... If not, let's go for this one. Shall we start, Reza? Is this a problem that when you are on congresses that you are being seen as not as good as the others? I think that was more or less the question. Should Reza, please, should you start?
Sure, I don't go to science conferences. But I think, in general, what I find is that people from, let's say, Albania, do become really good in their fields, whatever their field is, when they go and study abroad, and they become really good sort of there. But I don't think that Albania in itself has yet the structures in place to produce, German-style science. So in this sense, I don't know if this answers the question, but yeah, I think the region is not yet like the very strong scientific hub, but from the presentations that we've heard, I think we're working really hard to get there. And we can't do it as individual countries, but I think we can do it if we cooperate and try and bring our best brains together to get the Western Balkans on this track.
Sonia, please.
Yes. So I would also like to comment. So since I'm scientist by profession, and since I was working for practically 20 years in international research institutes like at CERN most of the time, I would like to address this point. I think we have a great talented people. And somebody yesterday mentioned that most of the money of EU are going to EU 15 countries because they have the best talents. But part of these talents are also from our region. And so Montenegro is, for example, a small country, but we are putting our cards on internationalization very much, like all of us should do that. And I can tell you that we have great representatives, even at CERN. We have now great representatives in EMBO and EMBO. We are becoming also part of European space agencies. So we have a competitive crew. But most of these people, even if we send them there, I want to push on the possibility for mobility to keep them to be part of our home institutes. This does not work because they are so good, and then the other labs from Western Europe are taking them. So that's what I'm telling, that we really need in our region, what I mentioned, with 40 million inhabitants, we really need to create such international institute to give our people to be leader and here. And this is the only way to keep these people in our region and not let them permanently to be part of the crew outside of here.
And with that, I think we come to the end of this panel because we're running out of time. So I would like us to thank the panel with a big hand. And I think what has come out of it is clearly that the issues, the challenges are there, and I think you identify it in a very pertinent way. It has to do with brain drain. It has to do with regional cooperation, if I understand it rightly, which needs to be strengthened. It has to do with issues relating also to getting the smart specialization into place and moving forward, and we've got examples on what that could look like. And it has to do with investments. So there are several elements here that needs to come together. And I think what also was interesting was the focus on not only smart specialization as such, but the link to research innovation and the link to basic education. Without that, the other things will not be delivered. And I think it was also important to have in mind that what we talk about, when we talk about Western Balkan, it's not something new research in this area. It's something that has been there for long. So it's an issue of seeing too that it comes back to the glory it had for not so long ago, and that is something that we all will work on and see into happening. So with that, thank you very much, and I think we give the panel a big hand. So, fine.